Hey YouTube, I'm back with another video, and in this video I want to take a look at some film portraits that I took on medium format. In my last video I talked about how I had set up my Mamiya 645 Pro to be able to shoot flash wirelessly with just an $8 cable. That cable allowed me to be able to merge the technological gap between my Mamiya 645 Pro and my current Godox for Sony flash kit, which is a wireless trigger and 3 flashes. So I was able to get that set up, I ran a test, and now I have gotten the images back and loaded them into the computer. So per that announcement in the last video, I want to jump over to the computer, take a look at the images, provide my thoughts, reflect on the notes that I took while I was doing that test, and just generally see how those images came out. So without further ado, let's jump over to the computer. This was the first image I saw, and I definitely had a little bit of a heart attack thinking that the flash only half exposed each frame and that I was just gonna have 15 shots of white and black mixed together. So I was very nervous about that. That was not how the images came out. So we did get fully exposed images. Thankfully, I'm very excited about that. So I shot 2 rolls, so 30 shots. I'm not probably gonna go over all of them, but I did wanna touch on a few of them. And I also have here with me some notes that I took from shooting, so I know where the flash was set up, how far away it was, what power I was using. So yeah, we have all of that info available here as we go through these. So I'm just gonna kind of pick these randomly. This is my friend Sydney. She's amazing, and she was the first person to volunteer for this little test here. So this is actually the edited shot. Let me jump over to the developers mode. So this is how it came out of the camera. So probably I would say a little bit overexposed and definitely a little bit of a warmth to the shot, which actually wasn't really all that surprising for me to see and obviously fairly easy to correct. But I know you shouldn't pixel peep when you look at film shots because you didn't have pixel peeping opportunities back then. But I do feel like the image quality, even just out of a 645 camera, is amazing. And you can see, you know, the definition on all of the eyelashes and how sharp it can be. So I think the mistake I made, and this is also the first shot, so I'll give you an idea of what the setup was here. So I had one flash going for this one, actually pretty close. So it was 3 feet away from Sydney's face, and she is looking pretty much directly into it. It was at a 45-degree angle from the camera angle. And then I had it set to 1/4 power and 5.6 on the aperture. Worth noting, all of these shots were shot on Portra 160. And the limitation of the Mamiya camera is that the only sync speed for the shutter is 1/60th. So those are our 2 constants there. We also had some fun with more interesting poses, as I mentioned. So this one right out of the camera was a bit more correctly exposed, and I think kind of towards the second half of this shoot, I really started to utilize my flash meter more correctly. And so I was getting a little bit more accurate exposures out of that. But yeah, this is shot 6. So for this one, I actually backed off the flash a little bit to 4.5 feet away from her, still using a single flash at 45-degree angle, 1/4 power, but I'm using f4 for this shot. This is the first shot that I did use more than one flash for. So for this one, I had 2 flashes, both at 45-degree angles from the camera, both about 4.5 feet away from Sydney. And then one of the flashes, the first flash, I'm still shooting at 1/4 power. The second flash, I'm shooting at 1/8 power. And the aperture that I used was f4. And then same with this one. Pretty much the rest of this shoot, we use the same flash setup. And again, much better results. And the exposure came out a lot better, I think, with Isaac. Just using the flash meter a little bit more appropriately, I would say. I was able to get better, more even exposure, even still just using the really close up flash. But this is with 2 flashes. So the flashes are 2 feet away from Isaac's face. The main flash is at 1/16 power and the secondary flash is at 1/8 power. And I shot this at f2.8. So I let a lot of light in on here for the aperture and created a little bit more shallow depth of field, which I think I fairly got focused on with Isaac. Of course, once we evened it out, a little bit better exposure level. And one that I really liked of Isaac was this one here. So right out of the camera, pretty awesome exposure. Really didn't take too much tweaking for the exposure to look right. Obviously just had to go in and adjust the colors a little bit to make them more accurate. But for this one, this is number 7. This was using 2 flashes at a 20-degree angle from the camera. These were about 5 feet away. Main flash is at 1/4 power, secondary flash at 1/8 power, and we're shooting at 5.6. And I thought this shot was really nice too. Not too much glare, just a little bit here in his glasses, right out of the camera. Pretty decent, although we had some shadow over here. Again, small studio space and just using the one light, you're gonna have some shadow. Exposure wise, pretty much nailed it. Just a little bit warm on the photo, but the actual exposure itself looked pretty good. This one is number 12, I believe. So this one was 45-degree angle on both flashes. This was about 7 feet away from his face, so obviously a little bit more even in terms of the lighting anyway. Both flashes were at 1/2 power, and I shot this at f5.6. All right, so that is a look at the images. I certainly am relieved that I actually had images come back. Definitely made me feel good that the setup actually works. Obviously, there's an opportunity for me to improve the exposure a little bit, and I think the majority of that will be with utilizing my light meter a little bit better in the future. But ultimately, those photos were all very good once they were edited, at least in my personal opinion. So I really enjoyed that process, and I appreciate my friends who came out and allowed me to photograph them as part of this test. So moving forward, now that I know that the camera works, I have a few projects in mind that I'm gonna do in the studio with my medium format camera. So I'm very excited for those. And I'm also excited to test this out on another camera, but that's for another video. So I think probably the best way to wrap up this video is for me to showcase some of my favorite portraits from that session that have been lightly edited. So I will show that as our fade out to this video, but I appreciate you all jumping in and watching this video. Comment with your feedback or, you know, whatever you have to say about any of this, and I will definitely see you all in the next one. For now though, cue the music.